If you can hear the sound of my voice, I want to thank you for spending some of your time engaged in a project of mine. Some people call me Barbados Joe. Some call me Mr. Ayers. From the banks of the Allegheny River, welcome to Film Bits. All right, guys and gals and chillins and whoever is listening, this is episode 2 for No Country for Old Men. And we are going to go 8 minutes to approximately 16 and change, maybe a little bit more. A couple notes I want to make sure I cover that I didn't get in the first episode. And if you haven't watched the first episode, please do. When Ed Tom Bell in his voiceover says, "The crime today, you can hardly take its measure." That's the first shot we get of Chigurh. So that, again, when we think about what words are being said in that voiceover and what images we see on the screen, some are very, very important. Now, for episode 2, we left off with Llewellyn Moss coming across the drug deal gone bad. Let's jump right in. So, one of the things about Llewellyn Moss is he's very, very careful. And as we will see when he approaches this, graveyard of bodies that haven't been buried with guns all over the place, he is not bothered at all. This kind of scenery of blood and death doesn't seem to fade him, which is pretty interesting to me because why? Why doesn't it bother him? What does he have going on in his life and his background that he can stumble across a scene like this? And not only does it bother him, but as we see him open that door with caution, he doesn't jump back when he sees what's inside. This man of mystery that Llewellyn Moss is. Seemingly a simple guy with simple tastes. Oh, and hello, there's a live one. He wants water and he's afraid of wolves. Now, notice how Moss interacts with this guy. Sees the submachine gun, grabs it.
I ain't got no water.
Sees there's extra ammo, grabs it. All the while not being too compassionate to this man's desire for agua.
You ain't got no arm.
And when he says that there are wolves about, Moss says there ain't no wolves. This is a big reveal right here. Boom. Jackpot. Lots and lots of dope. Now, this story is set in 1980 in a border town of Texas. And the idea from the novel written by Coen McCarthy is we are just starting to feel in the United States the press of illegal narcotics coming in from Mexico. Yes, obviously they've been doing this for a long time, but now we're starting to get from, say, the Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, Dallas, New York City. The drugs are permeating from these big cities and trickling down into these smaller suburban communities or even more rural towns. And that's a huge part of this movie and the message behind this movie. And it's quite often its cynical tone. Now, what Moss is doing here is he realizes, okay, if there's a bunch of drugs, there's got to be a bunch of money. So where is that last guy, the último hombre? And this sequence is pretty interesting because first we go from Moss not being disturbed to this very interesting set of skills he has. And he says, if you stopped in shade. And he catches the image of men's boots, brings out the watch so that he can mark the passage of time and compare it to whether those boots move at all. Cautious, methodical. That was an interesting beginning of a whip pan that just sort of edited back to him. And there we have that great close-up on the worn boots Moss's time has been satisfied. He thinks it's safe to approach. And sure enough, he was right. We know he's a hunter. We know he knows how to track that antelope. And he used some of those same skills and perhaps others to figure out there's one guy who got away with that money. It's hot as heck out here. If he rested in shade. Even with everything Moss has seen, and he's about to see something else right here. Hello, $2 million. He doesn't even talk. He makes little noises or sparing bits of dialogue. What does it take to make this guy react? And we have the trappings, the cowboy hats, the boots of the Western. It's very much a modern world. So it's a neo-Western crime kind of heisty chase flick with some noir aspects and some Western aspects. And we're going to talk about archetypes of the Western when we get a little further, because I believe this film subverts a lot of the normal archetypes. The sheriff, that's the hero, the stranger, the gunslinger, all that kind of jazz. Now, I love this scene. Listen to this. This is Moss and his wife. Listen to their interactions.
What's in the satchel?
It's full of money.
That'll be the day. Where'd you get the pistol?
At the getting place.
Did you buy that gun?
No, we found it.
Willin',
What? Quit your hollering.
what'd you get for that thing?
You don't need to know everything, Carla Jean.
I need to know that.
Now let's pause right here. Look at how close together these two sit. Now, no one sits this close together. It's uncomfortable. Unless you don't have the room, you don't sit this close together. But there they sit, shoulders touching, having this dialogue that's seemingly more combative than it is loving. And this is our quick flash into Llewellyn's domestic life. He lives in a trailer, so whatever he and his wife, who's named Carla Jean, do for money, it obviously isn't a lot. He comes walking in with a bunch of money, which he says honestly to her, and she can't believe it. That'll be the day. Another interesting point to me about this scene is that when I show this scene, sometimes students will misinterpret Carla Jean as his daughter, as Moss's daughter, and which is very interesting when he has the line about, I'll take you in the back and I'll screw you, and then she comes back with big talk. Something's bugging Llewellyn. And there we see him at the sink. Nice push in here. This is a POV shot from Carla Jean, who has woken up. And Llewellyn is filling a gallon jug with tap water.
What are you gonna do?
So even though he was brusque and seemingly rude to the man in the truck, the wounded man in the truck who wanted water,
There's dead Llewellyn.
it eats at him, it haunts him. So this just adds another layer of complexity to Llewellyn. He's a compassionate guy. He's taciturn, he doesn't say a lot. He has this interesting relationship with his wife, but he's going to bring that guy as water. And in a film as cynical as this, I think the Coens might be commenting about nice guys, compassion. Again, subverting the paradigm of the old Western. A hero you would expect to do something like this. But a hero wouldn't walk away with $2 million. A hero would give that money to the police. Looking at the truck. Feels those, hairs, with that lighting also coming back from his truck. Just feels odd going back out to this site. It's going to take out his weapon and approach the truck of the man who wanted the water. And here, let's hold this as a still here. Here we see the man is dead. Now notice his window has been blown open and there's blood on it. This is another visual motif that we'll see repeated but kind of flipped around, just like what I'm using for the thumbnails on my YouTube video for this series or for my Instagram posts. Broken glass with a circular hole in the middle, blood, in this case on the window. On the other one with Sugar, which comes from later in the film, the blood is on Sugar. One of two things has happened to this man. Moss took all of his weapons, seemingly, so it would appear that someone came back and killed him. Probably the people that realized the drug deal went bad, the Mexicans that wanted to get that truck full of dope and hopefully that money, or he had a weapon that Moss did not take, and due to his wound, due to his thirst, due to his fear of wolves, he shot himself. And now, as Moss takes in that scene, he again gets that feeling, slow turn, and there's a second truck there. And that's where we are going to close today's segment. So some final thoughts. In this neo-Western film that the Coens have made, with this very heavily cynical tone, we have a guy in Moss who looks the part of the cowboy, who's seemingly a good guy, has some interesting skills, but whatever those skills are don't make him a lot of money. Finds $2 million, decides, yeah, I'll keep it, doesn't give it to the authorities, which he should do if he were a hero. Seems to be okay around guns and not fearful of death or the byproducts of violence. And while he's seemingly hard and harsh, he has a conscience. And that conscience makes him go back to give that man some water. And as a result, that conscience now is going to get him into a serious mess as that second truck pulls up. This is the Coens telling us the world is not a place for humanity. Humanity is weakness, and weakness will get you in some serious trouble, or maybe even killed. This isn't a Western of the 50s or the 40s, where guys that look like Llewellyn Moss we could expect to act a certain way, where guys that look like Anton Chigurh dressed in all black we expect to act in a certain way. It's a different time, we have different crimes, and we have people who may look one way but behave another. So, if you have any comments, please leave them below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I'm going to be producing these episodes as often as I can. No set scheduled date, but heck, let's just have some fun, eh? And hopefully soon I'll be having some students joining me on board, either with No Country or with the many other films I've got planned down the road.